What is the other side before you were?
So I'll start with, what I was raised with was, the way that I break down my finances is I use 50% towards my necessities. The other 50% is broken down in increments of 10.
Okay.
So 10% towards education, 10% giving, 10% long-term savings, 10%, I call it financial freedom. I just put a little bit of something in that every single day.
I want to know OG you though, like before this you.
So from the third grade, from the grade of 3, I had the vision to become a surgeon, a doctor. I don't know what kind of surgeon, but all the way up until 2018 when I got my real estate license. But the me before was, okay, I'm getting A's and B's in school. I'm staying above a 3.3 GPA. As a surgeon in training, there's a certain type of personality.
Absolutely.
That they have.
100%. You have to have it. You can't do it.
You have to have it.
Absolutely.
Like,
I totally agree.
Calm in traumatic scenarios.
Their mindset is totally different than an average person. They live off of YOLO mindset. They live off of, they're a bit more laid back because they have to. But you allowed it to translate into every parts of your life. So like, how did that work in relationships though?
Lack of vulnerability.
Interesting.
In relationships.
So if a person wanted to open up with you, like if he was opening up, how did you receive that?
In the most simplest form, lack of connection. Because if I don't know how to respond, it means that I'm not internalizing what you're telling me. The awareness of the person first. Once you have that awareness, then from there, okay, how or what are the tools that can support me in kind of taking out the trash that I have internally? And I'm going to replace the trash with great things.
What would be considered trash?
Things that don't support your growth. Life could be the way that you talk to yourself, what you say when you talk to yourself, or how you absorb the things that people say to you.
So how do we relate that to money though?
Yeah. Here's the thing. That is in connection to the way that I think about myself. And the way that I think about myself is in connection to how I was raised, what I was told about myself, and what I listened to from other people. So that's like getting down to the root, to the surface level, just from an individual standpoint. Then in order to change the end goal of my money, I've got to get through that first. Because if I'm not attacking the internal portion and getting to the root of myself first, then I can't change my own money growth or bad habits or management of money.
But like, that's a mentality.
There we go.
Totally different mentalities.
You see?
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Totally influenced. I believe it's like those people that if it goes below a certain point, I have to work super, super hard to get it back. And that's not like a healthy mindset to also have at the same time.
Got to, find the awareness within myself of where my own money issues came from. Why was I, making $30,000, $40,000 a month, but spending everything and then finding myself back in the rat race again and being
you were doing that too?
I was doing that.
Oh, wow.
Where did I get it from?
Oh.
And how do I change that? What are the tools? Okay, so here's the way I break down my finances percentage-wise. And I got this from a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker.
I've heard of the book. I haven't read it though.
It's amazing. In T. Harv Eker's book, this is where I began my money philosophy, like when it started to like build the foundational blocks. And so the way that I break down my finances is I use 50% towards my necessities.
Okay.
10%. The other 50% is broken down in increments of 10.
Okay.
So 10% towards education, which could be something like this, coming to a conference, a summit.
Right.
10% giving, 10% long-term savings, 10%, I call it financial freedom. I just put a little bit of something in that every single day. Education, giving, financial freedom, long-term savings, and play. 10% for my play.
What is the other side before you were? What was that like?
So I'll start with what I was raised with because I think it would make sense as to why I was that way. So what I was raised with was go to school, get a good job, pay off that debt, buy a house, get married, have the kids. Traditionally. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever had the spelled out version of a woman perspective. Interesting. The 40-40-40 rule is the one that I know on the men. That's more on the men's side because, providing, but I never heard of the women's side. So get a job. What was the other one?
Buy a house.
Buy a house.
Get married, have kids.
Interesting.
But heavy on the education. And I'm speaking from my maternal side.
Gotcha.
Heavy on the education. So what are you going to do when you grow up? What are you going to school for? You know, you don't need to be doing this. You need to be doing this.
So I totally understand the ice coldness that you're talking about.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
But you allowed it to translate into every parts of your life. So like, how did that work in relationships though?
Lack of vulnerability
Interesting.
in relationships.
Lack of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so if a person wanted to open up with you, like if he was opening up, how did you receive that?
I would listen, but I wouldn't know how to respond.
You know what? I've been in all of that situation very often. Very often. I feel like there's not a book for it. Probably needs to have a book for that. How to respond in certain scenarios when certain things happen. Because you don't want to come off as something else. You get what I'm saying? Like you don't want to come off, if someone's being vulnerable, you don't want to be dismissive. That's the word that I'm looking for.
Yes.
Right? You don't want to be dismissive. So vulnerability for sure. So like what happened out of that relationship?
In the most simplest form, lack of connection. Because if I don't know how to respond, it means that I'm not internalizing what you're telling me.
Right.
I'm not feeling what you're saying to me. And that's a part of being empathetic.
For sure.
So there was lack of empathy, lack of vulnerability, and lack of connection. So I'm curious to know, like, being raised in the environment that you were raised in, having family business and the entrepreneurial mindset being instilled in you. I mean, selling in any type of way is still entrepreneurial. But I'm just curious to know.
She said, okay, we'll accept that one. That's entertaining. That's funny.
I'm just curious to know, and I'm sure they are too, what contributed to that portion of your life?
Like what kind of caused it?
Yeah, what caused it, or were you curious?
Environment.
Or okay.
Definitely curiosity. Because for me, I like to know both sides of the spectrum. I'm not a person that's like, okay, well, let me just know only one side. I don't want to be the person that, because I know I'm going to be extremely wealthy, but I don't want to be the extremely wealthy person that's completely ignorant of what the other side looks like. I think that's what my head was like at the back, the skull, like of why I was so curious. But the curiosity, like in the surface level, is like, oh, they're doing it. Let me do it too. Oh, they look cool. Let me do it too. Would I change it? No, because I still think it was one of the best times of my life, right? It was so much fun in like the midst of it. You know what I'm saying? But like thinking back, would I repeat it? I don't have any regret. Would I do it again? Yes, because I have no regrets. But like, would I make better choices? Absolutely, right? But like at the end of the day, like what kind of caused it was just curiosity. Like I want to make my own choices. You know, you think you're grown when you're really not grown. So like make my own choices, stuff like that. And it was just really my environment. It was just exposure, right? So I'm exposed to certain things. Just like if you were exposed to money, you're gonna naturally want to make more money. Same thing when it comes to stuff like that. So you know, you're just exposed in those type of areas. But I knew in the back of my head, I did not want to be one of those people that was completely ignorant of that side of the fence, if that makes sense. I wanted to know more of that about that side of the fence so I know what not to do. It was a very strategic approach. Was it the smartest approach? I probably could have learned that from someone else telling me. But you know, you learn through your own experiences. That's just how my mind worked at the time.
What advice would you give to someone who is in that position now? A young Marcus, so to speak.
Your environment is the most important thing ever. I would say that's more important than money, right? So a lot of people would say money is the most important thing. I would say relationships is number one, and then your environment is number two, then it's money, right? So your environment, get around different people, right? I would say some of that played a role, but not too much. It was mainly my choices, let's just be honest, right? But you know, you just gotta make decisions. Your environment is super, super important. So change your environment. Because it's exposure. What you're exposed to is what is naturally going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So like naturally expose yourself to different things outside of what you see. Because where you are is not who you are. That's what I would say. Don't let no one roll all over you. You know how to talk to people. But that's only because of the experiences that I had. You know what I mean? I don't think I would be able to do half of the things I'm able to do now without the experiences that I had, for sure.
And I think that's a part of not rewriting history and having no regrets. If we hadn't gone through the things that we had gone through, we wouldn't be who we are today.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
I do believe in boundaries.
Okay.
So there can be certain levels or certain boundaries that I may give someone that I may not give to another man or person.
Okay.
Man, I'd say, because I'm heterosexual, so.
You say what?
No offense, no shade, no tea. I said man or person, then I said man.
Thank y'all for tuning in on this episode. We appreciate you for hopping on and listening to our shenanigans. You know what I'm saying? But once again, I am Marcus.
I am Tiffany.
And we're gonna tap in. What's our podcast name again?
MNT.
MNT. Yeah, Minty's gonna be zoned out. You look for us on another episode. Peace.
See ya. Bye.